So Roddy Ricch has just released his second studio album, Live Life Fast, and this is his follow-up to 2019's Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial, one of the better debut trap albums that we've gotten in recent years. It was a commercial success, and the fans loved it as well. So going into this new album, the question became, would he be able to live up to the hype? And that's what we'll be tackling in our official review today of Live Life Fast. And if you guys are actually interested in catching our full uncut live album reaction to Live Life Fast, it's available for Patreon members, and the link is available now in the description below. And this is actually offered to NFR reaction tier members and NFR crew members as well. We're doing weekly album reactions where we actually go into new releases, and sometimes when there is no new drops, we actually visit projects that we haven't heard before. There's a full-blown live stream where you guys can actually come in, chat with us as we're listening to the album. And apart from that, we actually, have all of the catalog available for you after the stream is over. So check that out if it does interest you. So Ant, take us through how we actually do our album reviews here.
Absolutely. So today, guys, we're going to be using categories. So the first one we're going to be using is artist performance. Then we go on to features. Then we go on to production, and then instant replay. Now, we don't use a numerical system for the way we grade albums. We use emotions attributed to the album. So overall, we have bad, mid, good, great, amazing, and perfect. And going into this album, I had high expectations. I'm not going to lie to you. We've done a lot of pre-album content. We're Roddy Ricch fans. We've been listening to his music for a while now. I know, especially you. And just overall, I feel as if I was let down. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's kind of the feeling that I have going into it. But let's actually kickstart the review. Let's start with the artist performance here. Where do you think Roddy went wrong, in the way he delivered this album and the way he approached the overall vibe of it?
Yeah. So first of all, on the intro track, which I believe is called IIF, he actually sets up this narrative where he's giving us some narration about what the concept of the album could be, as he's talking about wanting to slow things down and actually embrace the blessings around him in his life instead of, getting caught up in the rich and famous life where he's kind of just going through the motions too quickly. So that kind of set up a possible narrative or concept for the album, but he completely abandons that idea and does not follow through it at all in terms of the subject matter on the project. So that was disappointing for starters. And apart from that, I feel like Roddy Ricch is one of the best vocalists in hip-hop right now, and he has this beautiful sounding raw gospel voice, but he didn't showcase much of that talent at all throughout the entire project. Apart from that, we saw on songs like Late at Night where he shows to be the master of vibrato in the sense of going from one pitch to the next seamlessly and hitting all of those notes really well, but throughout the entire album, he's actually doing way too much by shifting his pitch way too often per song, and the delivery ends up sounding screechy, and it was just executed to poor effect. Apart from that, I also have to say that I feel like Roddy Ricch sounded uninspired here. We noticed that on Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial, he was at times, let's say, biting the flows or deliveries of artists like Future and Young Thug, but I thought that with this album, he would maybe grow more into his own and be more original with his own style, but once again, on songs like Thailand, he's snagging Young Thug's flow. He's also snagging Future's delivery on a song like Murder One, and also has cadences similar to Big Sean at times. So it sounds like he's kind of not able to carve his own style just yet, so that was disappointing as well. And overall, it just seemed low effort to me. But how did you feel about it?
Well, first of all, I want to start with the uninspired hooks, because one thing that I really liked about his music was the ability to create catchy hooks
and hits.
And I think it's really a big driving force in his sound. But on this, go to Roller Coastin'. That is one of the worst hooks that I've heard all year. It's really not my thing. And then even at that, go to Crash the Party when the pre-chorus is literally just A, for 4 lines straight. And it ruins kind of the pacing of the album because it doesn't keep you entertained. Not only that, but you're going to be getting the same recycled flows and deliveries that you got on albums like it Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial, just now with less energy and with less inspiration. So what was really the moving force behind this performance? Not only that, but listen, I know for trap albums we don't grade content. We removed it for this review, but there's some really offsetting bars on this album.
A lot of cringeworthy bars.
You go through other projects and Roddy gets inspirational. He's really nice with his wordplay at times. The way that he's able to set up certain words in his flows and deliveries. But on this, it was really off-putting. So I'll go through a couple of them. Murder One. I spent $250,000 last year. By the way, I've heard that bar on too many Roddy Ricch songs. Rolling the Big Dog, You Peel, huh? And the plug gave me a bad baby, had to play Dr. Phil. Listen to this next one, On Everything You Need. This was the one that really shocked me. If you want to ride me like a typhoon, let me eat you like some food. This is stuff that I'd hear in a high school freestyle. style. And it's not to say that, Roddy's a bad lyricist. It's just like the content matter was so stagnant and was so still to the point where it kind of disengaged me from the rest of the album.
Can I add some
Absolutely.
lyrics?
Go
And
ahead.
by the
What do
way,
you
I
got?
just want to say that, despite him not following through with the concept, I get it that he kind of spends the whole hour singing and rapping about wealth and women, but he doesn't have much to say on either
Because
topic.
you can make that interesting, though.
You can make it interesting, but he doesn't. He has nothing to say on it, I feel like. And some of the bars that I wanted to bring out include told her pop her pussy like a Tesla. That was on Man Made. Really wasn't feeling that one. Apart from that, this one really gets me. Had to get a towel out the bathroom because I seen the snot coming out her nose. That was on the outro 25 million. It seems lazy. It sounds like he was just saying whatever came to mind and didn't really think it over after delivering those lines. So that was super disappointing. And listen, apart from that, I just feel like Roddy didn't do anything to show us what his full capability and potential is throughout this project. And he sounded rhythmically out of tune and also off key with his singing at times. So for those reasons, I think we have to give the artist performance a bad rating.
Yeah, and I really didn't want to do this, but there's really nothing redeemable out of the performance. Maybe besides Paid My Dues, where he had a back and forth with Takeoff. But even at that, another thing that you're going to find within the album, at least in my opinion, is that the features completely overtake him on every single...
We'll get to that soon.
And we'll get to that on the features. But listen, let's end up diving into the production, because this is a very strong part about Roddy's albums. He has a great ear for production, has a West Coast flavored sound, but one thing that I really wanted to see him go into was a different type of sounds besides the off-tune guitar strings and the flute sounds. But dude, listen, Don't I, 25 Million, Hibachi, Move to Miami, No Way. They low-key all sound like the same productions, besides maybe some different synths in the background. So I didn't like that. And besides Paid My Dues that were beautiful dark synths that were provided by Boy Wonder and Coleman, there's really nothing that redeeming about the overall soundscape of this album. It sounds like there's no direction, whereas if his past projects had this coherent and really nice focused sound, then that was something that we were speaking about in our expectations. How was he going to be able to change up the soundscape of this album? How was he going to be able to choose better beats? So take me through that. What were your general emotions going through the production of this album?
Yeah, well, to start off, just with the lead single and the album cover, I had kind of gotten that vibe that we were in for, let's say, some instrumentals that would be darker or more somber. And I mean, for the most part, you kind of do get those nighttime vibes, and the soundscape kind of stays consistent sometimes with that kind of style. But overall, I mean, these beats are not only formulaic for the trap genre, but also for Roddy Ricch himself, because I've heard these similar strings and flute melodies on Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial.
It sounds like a part two.
I already got this stuff from him. I didn't need to get these sounds again. Apart from that, I do want to say that there were quality beats. Kenny Beats did his thing. Cardo had a nice production, but the standout is on Paid My Dues from Boy Wonder and Coleman. I love the eerie atmosphere that they set up. The futuristic synths really put you in a transcendent state. So that was awesome because, I mean, the hi-hats were really nice. The drum programming was good. But more than that, Roddy Ricch actually got out of his comfort zone and rapped on a beat that he typically wouldn't. So that was interesting to see him kind of get out of the comfort zone there. But apart from that, I mean, to me, there was a lot of confusion with the production because at times on Crash the Party, for example, you'd have this random bass guitar coming in where you're kind of like, what is this doing here?
Yeah, I remember we were listening to the album yesterday and we had that in our headphones and we were like, whoa, what just kicked in? Because you have these gospel organs that are playing throughout the production, and then you get this groovy bass line that comes in and you don't necessarily understand the direction of the production. So I'm going to agree with you. There was times where, yes, there was brilliance, but for the most part, the production was really mid. There was nothing necessarily that was pushing the boundaries of this album, and I just feel as if overall there was room for improvement. Example, those synths that you would hear throughout the album, that could have been more prominent throughout the production. That could have been more prominent in the way that, Roddy approached the overall direction and soundscape of this album. So I think we have to go overall mid on the production. It's really nothing innovative, and at times, the production actually falls flat because you're going to low-key get bored, when you're going from 1 to 18, at least in my opinion.
And just to end off my final thoughts on that, I just feel like if you go to a song like Move to Miami with Lil Baby, the first minute of that song is literally elevator music. And it's so confusing because it has nothing to do with the vibe of the track that follows. So a lot of confusing placements in terms of the production. And I mean, besides a couple of beats, again, very formulaic, nothing new. But let's now go on to the features. One thing that's always kind of anticipated for trap albums. And going into this, when I saw that first feature list, I was a bit let down. I'm not going to lie to you. I felt like that was kind of generic in terms of being a standard list for trap artists. It didn't seem very new. It didn't seem like he was collaborating with new artists like I would have wanted to see. But we did get Jamie Foxx, but that ended up being disappointing because Jamie Foxx didn't even have any contributions vocally. Right?
Oh, man, that was probably the biggest letdown for me on the album because we were waiting for it, and then we heard the production, and we were going to be like, "Where does Jamie Foxx fit on this production?" Like, I think he had everyone that was looking like, what was going to be going on with Jamie Foxx's performance. Everyone was hyped for it, but at the end of the day, like, there was necessarily nothing that was redeeming about it because it was just an intro. So I think when you're looking at that, you got to kind of see, where the features place and what's going on with it. But Takeoff had a really nice verse on here. The back and forth was really nice. Ty Dolla $ign, I love the vocals on there, but at the end of the day, still, like, it was nothing crazy and that it was super short-lived. Lil Baby, I felt as if I've heard that verse over and over again on different albums, so wasn't too impressed by it, but still, it was still a good feature. Gonna glided on this album. I think that was really nice, but overall, how did you feel about certain features?
Kodak Black was the dark horse of this album, and a lot of people were kind of saying, oh, why is Kodak on here? And I kind of predicted that he was going to impress a lot of people, and just through his delivery, you could tell how much rhythm there is behind it, which is easily better than what Roddy was doing on that track. And that's kind of the narrative for all of the features on this album, is that they outshined Roddy's performances on pretty much every single song on here. And that was kind of disappointing to see. But despite that, I would say the standouts would be Ty Dolla $ign on the intro, where he's kind of, he's layering his vocals behind Roddy's and kind of harmonizing very nicely. Apart from that, I mean, Takeoff's chemistry with Roddy Ricch was awesome. Paid My Dues, to me, is the best song on the entire album because of that back and forth they had. It was high energy. They were both really, feeling out the beat and really executing well. Apart from that, Fabio Foreign on Murder One, that was cool. I mean, I thought that it sounded better than it needed to just because of how lackluster Roddy's performance was. But Lil Baby did okay, kind of his standard feature. Gunna really floated on that track, though, so I enjoyed that. And overall, yeah, the features weren't spectacular by any means, not super memorable either, but it kind of plays into the downside of the album because when you look at it, for the whole grand scope of the project, it takes away from the album because, like I said earlier, they outshined Roddy on every single album, on every single song. So it kind of it decreases the value of the album for me in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
No, I got to agree with you on that. But overall, I think that the features were actually good on this album. Like, that was the one redeeming quality within this track list. And it was actually refreshing because throughout the track list, you were like, okay, how's this going to sound? And I'm waiting for this feature. I'm waiting for this feature. So the features were good, but let's move on to the replay value. Listen, I don't think I'm taking much off of this album besides maybe I would say, if I'm being super generous, I would say maybe Paid My Dues and maybe I would say Don't I think those are the two tracks that I'm taking out of it. Okay. But besides that, I don't have anything going into this. If I want to hear these types of sounds by Roddy, I have full of projects that I could go visit where I could hear these nice melodic flows and nice singing performances. But for the most part, like, the focus really throws me off on this album. Like, I really can't, go from 1 to 18 again. It kind of bored me when I was going through it. So that's what I have to say about the replay value overall.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, after even the first listen, I mean, I've given it 2 listens at this point, but I knew right away that this album was not going to age well just from the jump. And I think that the ballads didn't do it for me. I think the hype songs didn't do it for me either. And the songs that I would be taking out include, I would say, that kind of interlude called Slow It Down, which is like a 1-minute track, which should have been longer. Apart from that, I would say Paid My Dues.
Yeah, there's really nothing
maybe Late at Night. And it's interesting that, like, Late at Night is one of the better songs on the album, and that's the only single he released. It kind of shows maybe a lack of confidence, maybe. I don't know. But nonetheless, I think the instant replay value is bad because there's nothing really to grab out of the track list. And to go through this and sit with it and go from track number 1 to track number 18 sounds like a dreadful experience to kind of do over again. So we're going to go with the bad rating, but let's now go into our overall thoughts. So now that it's all said and done, what are you saying, man?
Very disappointing first listen of the year. That's what I have to say. If we had to do over the disappointing albums of 2021, I would have definitely slotted this in because I had high expectations for this album. I'm a fan of Roddy Ricch's sound. I've always been an advocate for, his talent and the way that he's able to carry out track lists. But with this, it was just not showcased. I think that, the fact that I could only take out maybe 2 songs out of an 18-song track list shows a lot. Production stayed stagnant besides, a couple of, let's say exceptional songs. And then the artist performance performance was just super disappointing. It was a big letdown for me because I know what Roddy could do and it just wasn't showcased here. And overall, there's no cohesion. There's not a sound. Like, there's nothing necessarily that really gravitate towards me. So I'm disappointed with the album. I'm really not liking it right now. Hopefully it grows on me, guys. Listen, if you guys like it, tell me what you guys think about it in the comments. Maybe there's stuff that I'm missing on this, but I'm really not liking it as of right now. How about you? How are you feeling about it?
Yes, when Roddy Ricch said no skip policy, I think he actually meant no hit policy.
Someone said that in the stream yesterday.
Yeah, so that was an interesting take. Apart from that, I just feel like this is a purposeless trap album where Roddy kind of brings half-baked ideas to the table, expecting us to appreciate these recycled flows and generic trap production, which really wasn't hitting at any moment. Also, a lot of confusing moments, a lack of direction in terms of songs like Move to Miami, where you have a random 1 minute long elevator section at the beginning of the song. Also getting the BB interlude where it sounds like she recorded her vocals on a 2007 Motorola. Apart from that, I just feel like Roddy Ricch does sprinkle in good ideas at times. Like, for example, having Jamie Foxx appear on the album, but he never follows through with these good ideas. Also, a song like Slow It Down, that sounded like the best song on the album, but it didn't get to have its full potential because it only lasted 1 minute long. So I think this album, at the end of the day, is guilty of following suit with a lot of, I would say, popular tropes within the trap, within the trap genre, in terms of having a track list that's too long, an album that's not cohesive in the slightest, and no innovation sonically. The one thing that I wanted from this album was growth from Roddy Ricch, and I did not get that in the slightest. And he also strips away any meaning that he could have possibly wanted to have with the phrase of live life fast. And I think this is a super low effort body of work, and he's going to have to do some damage control after this release.
I really want to see how he's going to be able to follow up with this because I want him to drop a good project. I want to see how he's going to be able to do it. And the fact that we've had to wait 2 years and then this is what was delivered, kind of makes you ask some certain questions. But listen, guys, I think we're going to have to give the overall rating mid. It was a mid album. There's nothing else to say about that. It was stagnant. Roddy's performance didn't do it at all. The features were at least good, so that's maybe redeeming quality out of it. But as Lou said, no growth from Roddy and was definitely not worth the 2-year wait. But guys, listen, if you actually enjoyed this album, as I said, drop your takes in the comment section. I want to see what you guys are feeling because let's say there's certain things that Lou and I have missed. Guys, tell us about it. We'd love to go through it with you guys and maybe get some more insight on the album. Not only that, but as Lou mentioned at the beginning of this episode, if you guys are interested in our full uncut reaction to Live Life Fast, that is available on our Patreon plan. The link to that is in the description. It was super fun doing that with you guys. Yesterday it was awesome. For whoever is in this video right now that came to the stream last night, thank you so much for subscribing to the Patreon plan. It was a blast with you guys, and thank you for watching this. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for watching the full video, and if you're new to NFR, be sure to hit that subscribe button as we'll be keeping you guys updated with the latest album releases in terms of update videos, album reviews, and our own original series on the weekly. And we also have our Patreon plan available in the description below, where you can access weekly bonus content and also access to our Discord. So be sure to check out all of that, and we'll catch you in the next one.